Hello, my name is Lara Tillotson, and I am the Diva in Spirit, here to take you on a journey through all things fermented and distilled, and of course, all of the wonderful ways to enjoy them. So today we are continuing our conversation about the original cocktail, the old fashioned, and talking about ways to take those four simple ingredients and create some wonderful new flavor profiles and cocktail experiences. So again, that original recipe for the original cocktail is spirits, sugar, bitters, and water. You'll notice does not ever specify that the spirit must be whiskey. And in fact, if you remember from the conversation last week, prior to J.W. Pepper adopting that cocktail as a bourbon cocktail, you were more likely to see it made with rum or brandy or even gin. And there are even parts of the country where bourbon was never adopted as the go-to spirit for an old-fashioned. If you go to most parts of the Midwest and order an old-fashioned, you're more likely to be served a brandy cocktail than you are a whiskey cocktail. So that right there is a great place to start when you're playing with ways to riff on the old-fashioned. But again, you can use literally any distilled spirit, and it's going to work beautifully with this basic, simple recipe. I find that brown spirits tend to work a little bit better with the bitters and sugar than a white spirit. So by a brown spirit, we mean anything that's been aged in a barrel. Barrel is what gives that spirit color. If it's been in a barrel, it's a brown spirit. So instead of reaching for a silver or blanco tequila, try a reposado or an añejo. Rather than reaching for a silver rum, think about trying an aged rum in your old fashioned. That's one of my personal ways to make an old fashioned if I'm not using whiskey. So any distilled spirit, literally anything, is going to work very well here. Then the next ingredient we're talking about is bitters. Last week we used Angostura, classic, simple, delicious, but there are countless flavors of bitters on the market. Dozens, the different companies that make them, all kinds of flavors, literally anything you could possibly imagine. Today, we're going to be playing with black walnut, orange, and chocolate bitters, but there are strawberry bitters and rhubarb bitters and coconut bitters, literally anything. And then finally, sugar. Really, any kind of sweetener is going to work here. So last week we used our classic Demerara sugar, but you don't have to use sugar. You can use honey. You can use agave. Agave is a great choice if you decide you want to try a tequila old-fashioned, because of course tequila is distilled from agave. But the other thing you can do is go a step beyond simple sugar, honey, and agave and try some flavored syrups. This is the secret to almost every craft cocktail bar you've ever been to. They make their own syrups. Handcrafted simple syrups that they then infuse with fresh natural ingredients to flavor those syrups. Most of us have neither time nor talent nor inclination to make all kinds of different flavored syrups to keep at home when we're making our cocktails. But fortunately, there are people out there that do, and they sell them. And we can buy these beautiful pre-made natural ingredient simple syrups to keep on our home bars and make wonderful fun cocktails with those. So when you're looking at buying some simple syrups to keep on your bar, make sure that you're looking at those ingredients. We don't want anything that's artificially flavored and just going to make your drinks taste like candy. Make sure you're buying syrups that are made with actual natural ingredients, and so your syrup tastes like the thing and not a fake version of that thing. So today I'm playing with a brand called Toasted Simple. It's a fairly new brand. They've got about 8 or 9 different flavors that they make. Today I've got the honey pecan and the cinnamon clove. And what I love about this brand, first of all, as I said, natural ingredients, small batch, everything made by hand. This literally started off like 2 guys in their kitchen, just getting creative, trying to recreate a toasted coconut old fashioned, and came up with all of these different flavors that they're now marketing. So first of all, we know it's small batch, handmade, it tastes delicious, but also one of their like sort of shtick, I guess, is that all of the ingredients, the flavors are actually toasted. So it's not just pecan, it's toasted pecan. It's not just honey, it's toasted honey before they then infuse into their syrups, which means every one of their flavors has this underpinning of caramel and toast, all of the flavors that you associate with new American oak, which is what we're going to age all of our American whiskeys in. So any one of those flavors going to be beautiful with any oak aged spirit, which, as we've already said, is what we kind of want in our old fashions. So that's what we're going to do today, is play with some of these flavored syrups and make some fancy old fashions. So first off, let's talk about these whiskeys that are sitting here next to me. You'll notice these are a little bit more high end than the whiskeys that we've been typically using, or the spirits, I should say, that we've been typically using for most of our cocktails. And it's because I want to dispel a myth that you shouldn't use nice spirits to make cocktails. I would not use a spirit like this in something that's very juice based, like a whiskey sour or a gold rush, anything where it's going to be really hiding behind a lot of other ingredients. You are right. That is a waste of these spirits. But when we're talking about something as clean and simple as an old fashioned or a Manhattan, absolutely use your nice spirits in those cocktails. Think of it this way. If you were to buy a beautiful steak to cook at home, you wouldn't cover it in steak sauce, but you would absolutely season it with salt and pepper before you cooked it. We're going to think about this little bit of bitters and sugar as our salt and pepper to season our beautiful whiskeys. So let's start. We are going to make a bourbon old fashioned featuring the honey pecan syrup. This is Garrison Brothers. It is from Texas. This whiskey makes me so homesick. Then I needed to lean all the way in and put some pecan syrup in it as well to make my old fashioned. We're also going to go really far and make a beautiful cocktail as well as a delicious one. And I'm actually going to rim my glass with some pecans and sea salt, so I get just a little bit extra flavor in that. So I'm going to start off, in order to make that mixture stick to my glass, we're going to just rim it with a little bit of orange so that the pecan and salt will stick. I've got my pecans and salt right here, already ground up. So just like you would rim a martini glass, or a margarita glass rather, same idea, but we've got pecans and salt instead of just salt and lime. So here's our glass. Now I'm going to add just a half ounce of this syrup. But I would say when you start playing with syrups, play with your ratios. If you like it on the sweet side, go 3/4 of an ounce or a full ounce. I don't like mine terribly sweet. I want just a little bit of this flavor. So I'm going to use just a half ounce here. And again, since we're making it old fashioned, we're just going to build it right here in the glass. No shaker necessary. And I'm going to mix my bitters. Instead of doing 2 to 3 dashes of the same, I'm going to go with 1 dash of orange bitters. Keep everything nice and bright. And then I'm going to go 2 dashes of these black walnut bitters to lean on into the nutty flavor. These syrups, this particular brand is light enough that I don't really need to add any additional water to break it down and allow it to blend in together with the whiskey. So I'm going to just pour my whiskey right on in. But again, you're going to want to play with this at home. Decide for yourself whether that needs a splash of water or not. I say not. And I'm going to add, I'm going to make a big one. We're going to go 2.5 ounces of bourbon. And instead of stirring with a spoon, I'm going to stir with a little cinnamon stick. Then we're going to add our 1 perfect cube. And here's our honey pecan old fashioned featuring Garrison Brothers bourbon whiskey. Delicious. I'm going to pause for a minute and drink this delicious cocktail. And when we come back, we're going to make a rye old fashioned leaning into the spice with some cinnamon and clove. Welcome back. I hope that you paused with me to enjoy an old fashioned. So we're going to make another one right now. But instead of bourbon, we're going to go with some rye. And I want to really lean into the spice of our rye by using the cinnamon and clove syrup from Toasted. So again, one of the things I really like about the brand is their flavors are all very thoughtful to allow you to enhance what's special about each individual whiskey that you're drinking. So spicy rye, cinnamon, and clove. Again, for me, these are sweet, so I want just a half ounce. But when you're using syrups like this, again, play with the ratios. This is your cocktail, not mine. Use as much or as little makes you happy. And I want to use a mix of 2 different bitters, again, for this one. So to lift the spice, we're going to use some orange bitters. I'm going to go 2 dashes of the orange bitters. And then to add a little bit of depth behind the spice, we're going to use 1 dash of chocolate bitters. And again, I'm going to skip the water to break this down. I think these syrups are light enough that they don't really need any help to break down in the whiskey. So we're going to go right on in and add 2.5 ounces of our E.H. Taylor rye. But once again, we're going to use a cinnamon stick to stir instead of a spoon. Really like lean all the way into that cinnamon. And then again, for just a little lift, I want to finish this off with an in and out orange twist. Not to be confused with an in and out martini. Not quite the same thing. But similar idea. We're going to express the oils over the glass so we get those hints of citrus. We're going to run the twist around the side of our glass. Again, leave a little bit of extra oil. And then discard the twist rather than leaving it in the glass. And I'm going to put that cinnamon stick back in. Cheers. That is delicious. Everything I love about fall in a glass. And no, I'm not going to wait for fall to have another one. I will be drinking these all summer. Lovely. So if you are interested in trying out some of these beautiful syrups, they've got like 8 or 9 different flavors. The website is toastedsimple.com. And they have, so this is their full-size bottle, but they've got a really cute little sample set with smaller bottles that you can try all of the flavors, or you can get the larger bottles as well, and they've got some cute gift sets. Delicious stuff, makes gorgeous cocktails. There will be some fun summer cocktails coming later on where I play with some of the other flavors that they offer. So again, that's toastedsimple.com if you wanted to check them out. And in the meantime, next week, we are going to start talking about the Manhattan. So make sure that in addition to your whiskeys, you've got your sweet vermouth and you've also got your bitters handy so we can play with that cocktail as well. So for now, make sure that you are subscribing to our YouTube channel. Please follow us on Facebook. And in the meantime, I will be with you in spirit.